The Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast is hosted by me, intuitive eating wellness coach Deanna Kozarov. My mission is to show women that health and wellness can be achieved without the pursuit of weight loss, counting calories, and spending hours in the gym punishing yourself. I am taking back health and wellness from diet culture and showing women that they don't have to succumb to diet culture standards to feel good in their body and find joy in life. I'll be coming on the podcast to talk about a variety of topics that will help you on your journey to food freedom, movement, and how to care for your body and life. It is my hope that by having this podcast, you will have the mental and emotional space freed up to enjoy life instead of constantly worrying and stressing over food and exercise, and live the life that you deserve. Let's get started. Thanks for coming back to the Intuitive Wellness Cafe podcast. I hope everyone is well and good. Today, we are going to talk about intuitive eating, what it is not, and take a look at the first principle of intuitive eating, which is reject the diet mentality. So there are 10 principles of intuitive eating that were put together by two registered dietitians, Evelyn Triboli and Elise Resch, and they summarized what intuitive eating is in their book called Intuitive Eating, which define intuitive eating with three main features, which is 1, relying on internal cues to address hunger and fullness, 2, having unconditional permission to eat all the foods, and 3, eating more for physical reasons and not as much for emotional reasons. So there are over 150 studies on intuitive eating that say that it works. So what intuitive eating is not is a set of rules or another diet. It's not like a 10-step way of eating or anything like that. It's not linear. And you can move from one principle to another in like various stages. The key is that we try to do away with external rules on how we should eat and handle our health. So it's not like an eat whatever you want diet either. It's really about tuning inwards with what our bodies want and need that will feel good. Yes, intuitive eating does say to eat, the cakes and chips and pizza and all the foods that you were restricting before, but your body will also eventually crave things like salads and smoothies and so forth that may provide a different value. The difference here is that we don't give morality to a food and practice that all foods fit. There are no good foods or no bad foods or no junk foods. There is no morality, to food. We're not better or worse for the foods that we choose. And one of the biggest mistakes that is common that I made at the beginning of my intuitive eating journey was that I, released all the rules around food, which is part of it, but I was just eating like everything that I was not allowing before without giving thought of how the food made me feel. So it's not diet culture if you decide that, brownies are not my thing or donuts, after trying them. Also, I'm not a huge fan of kale, for instance. Like no matter what, I just can't get into kale either. But that's because I just don't like how it makes me feel and the texture. So I cannot label myself as a bad person just because I don't like kale, because, kale has been put on such a high pedestal in the wellness world, But for some, they might actually like how it tastes and make them feel. The intention of why you're eating that food is what's important. Are you avoiding the food because you are so into diet culture and people are telling you it's not good for you and you feel guilty eating it and you're dieting? Or you internally tune into your body and it actually does not like that said food and how it makes you feel? That's the difference here. You're not perpetuating diet culture if you actually do like salads. Hunger, fullness, and satisfaction are three main keys to intuitive eating: hunger, fullness, and satisfaction. Another myth out there is that intuitive eating is anti-health, which is far from the truth. Some have labeled it as the eat whatever you want diet, and that is so not true. Intuitive eating takes on not just our physical health into account, but also our emotional and mental health as well. There's also a social aspect to the way we eat as well. Think back, going to a birthday party, you're eating cake, you're eating all the, the chips and the dips. You're there to celebrate whatever is happening there and you're bonding with people. It's also, a social thing too. We have to take into account. So it provides a much more holistic approach to our health that is just not steeped in diet culture. So one of the first principles of intuitive eating is reject the diet mentality. So diet culture hijacked our vision to what health really should look like, thanks to the clever marketing schemes that we must use the latest shakes and pills and strict diets and exercise regimes and so forth in order to shrink our bodies and lose weight, the ideal thin body. Dieting has like a cycle that can be difficult to break for a reason, to keep you in that hamster wheel, to buy into this diet culture. It's been proven that 95% of diets don't work. And the diet, or in the weight rather, it comes back on eventually. 95% of diets don't work. It's been shown. Think about the diets you've been on and how long they were able to sustain you until you gain weight again. I've been on plenty of diets where I regained the weight back. So I totally believe that it is true that 95% of these diets that don't work, and you end up, gaining weight back even more. Rejecting the diet mentality is the very first step towards having like a peaceful relationship with food, because as our beliefs, they fuel our thoughts, which then affect our emotions and eventually our actions. So we have to first believe that diets are just not the way to go in order to achieve optimal health and wellness. Without doing this first, it would be difficult to really proceed with intuitive eating and getting away from diet culture. And diet culture is now co-opting into intuitive eating. They're now all of a sudden getting really sneaky, like how they're, now that they're seeing it becoming more mainstream. I'll probably do an episode on how to spot sneaky diet culture, because it is really, really sneaky. I mean, they are getting really clever now, so you have to be vigilant out there. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are 10 principles of intuitive eating that have been outlined in detail in the book called Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Triboli and Elise Resch. And I'll link the book below. It really goes into depth in those principles that are outlined in there. And I just want to let you know that I do have a free guide on how to kickstart your food freedom journey. I will link it at the bottom of this episode. It has quick tips to get you started on this journey. So be sure to sign up for that. But learning this whole way of eating can be pretty overwhelming on your own, and there are so many nuances to it. So I invite you to apply to work with me on a one-to-one container, which I will also put in that link below to see if we're a good fit for coaching. And as always, please let anyone you know that might benefit from this podcast, and leave a review if you would be so kind on Apple, which allows it to be more visible for others, which is so important because we need to get away from this diet culture, and that is hijacking so many women's lives. Well, thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you on the next episode.